Alright, so if you're new to this, I just wanted to start you off with some basic stuff about programming and how it works. We're going to be using JavaScript, which is kind of like a language that's really good for the browser. It's how you can write programs for the internet. I'd like to just show you some basics of that sort of thing so that you can understand a little bit better what's going on in this guided project that we're going to be doing next. So I hope you follow that. We're going to go to this site, replit.com, Replit, I don't know, whatever, how you want to pronounce it. If you come here, you can log in. You can just click the little Google icon and use your school account. I'm already logged in here. You're going to create, and you're going to want to create an HTML, CSS, JavaScript file. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you do. Okay, sorry, I'm getting confused. You're going to want to create something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and click create here. Otherwise, if you don't see that, you can just hit plus, new REPL. There's a plus up here. Any of that would be fine. When you create an account, it may give you a questionnaire, like what's your experience programming. You can fill that out if you'd like. You can skip it if you'd like. But if you do, once you get through that or you skip it, create a REPL. Choose HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's got a 5 here for HTML5. Whatever it is, I'll just call this testing ground. New one, I don't know. And it should take you to an editor. Your editor may look a little different than mine. That's okay. I'll show you in just one second. Alright, you can click Run to see the preview of the project that's made. This is a blank project, so there's nothing to see. You have your files. It looks probably different maybe than what you have. If you go to settings though, you can change your theme. You can change the layout. Instead of side by side, you can do top versus bottom. I've got huge font, so it's easier to see for you. When you're working by yourself at home, you can go to normal font. But that's how I change. That's why the appearance might look a little different. You can also toggle this to hide it or show it. So I'm gonna hide it a little. Well, I guess I'll show it to get to the script file. The script is kind of what I want. So I am in the JavaScript file, and this is where you can create a JavaScript program. And I just wanted to show you some of the things that you can do here. So I can say something like 1, and if I press run in my JavaScript, it does nothing. But I can also say console.log 1. And if I run that, it'll spit down in the console the number 1. So it shows me what I want to print using that function. Alright, so I can also say console.log 1 plus 1. It'll tell me 2. Whatever you want. Times is a star. Maybe I'll do 2 times 5. It's 10. Very nice. Okay, so some basic elements of programming. The first one is that you have different data types. These are numbers that I'm working with. I could say 2.3 times 5, 11.5, okay. I can also work with what are called strings. So a string is quotes, and I could put, a word like hamburger, and if I press run, it'll show the text. If I didn't have the quotes, it would not recognize this as a word, as text. It would think that this is part of the program, and it would be like, I have no idea what you mean by hamburger. It is not defined. So if you want to deal with it just like it's text, you gotta have the quotes around it. Just like how we could add text, I can say plus hot dog, and if I run that, it adds the text together. It actually just puts it together. So it appends, it puts it at the end. Notice there's no space, so if I wanted a space, I could put one here or here, and I guess I'll put one here. And if I run it, now it says hamburger hot dog with a space. So you can join text with a plus. You might want to think about the spaces. Here's another example. I could say 1 plus 1 and run that, and you get 2. Nice. But what if I put quotes around one of the ones so that it's a text of 1 instead of the number? Well, when I run it, it will convert the other number to text and then join them like they're text. So it'll put 1, 1, so it kind of looks like 11. That's something to be aware of. So there you go. So let's talk about some variables. To make a variable in JavaScript, there's a couple ways you could do it. I could say var hamburger equals 1. And now when I say, I'll say equals 3. And now when I say 1 plus hamburger, and notice I don't put hamburger in quotes this time, now it will think this is part of the program, and now it is defined. I have defined it. I've said create a variable, which means make a spot in the memory, and I'm going to refer to something as hamburger, and for now hamburger is the same as 3. So now what's 1 plus hamburger? If I run it, it says 4, so that's good. So that's a variable. Once you declare a variable, like I did with the var, you don't have to declare it. In fact, you shouldn't declare it again, but you can change it. So I could say hamburger equals 7, and then if I run it, what's 1 plus hamburger? Now it's 8. If I put this code here, this console.log, before I change hamburger, it'll still be 3 when I run this line before I change it to 7. So now it says 4, and then if I run it twice, if I run it again after I change it, it should say 4, and then it should say 8. There you go. So it depends on when you run it and when you change it. There's also something else you can do. I can say, so if hamburger is 7, I can say plus equals 3, and that should, and then I'll put this again. And now I'm going to get rid of the 1 plus so that you can just see what hamburger is without adding 1 to it. So I run it, hamburger is 3, write it to this console, set hamburger to 7, write hamburger to console, I get a 7. Now I say plus equals, not equals. Plus equals 3. That keeps hamburger 7, but then adds 3 to its current value. That's what plus equals does. So now I've added 3 to 7, and now hamburger is 10. That's how that works. Another thing you can do is hamburger plus plus, and that should add just 1. Plus plus just adds 1. So it's now 11. I could have done minus minus, and it can be right on the word, minus minus. That takes it down by 1. Minus equals 5. From 10 it will go down 5 to 5. So that's how you can work with numbers. That's how also you can work with strings or text. You can add things to the text. So if I said var sentence equals hello, my name is, I could say console.log sentence plus Ryan. If I run that, hello, my name is Ryan. You can work with text that way too. If I say sentence plus equals is not, and then I run that, it'll append onto the end not space, and I'll say hello, my name is not Ryan, because sentence is now changed. Otherwise I could overwrite it and say not Ryan. So yes, it was started as hello, my name is, then it became not, and then I added Ryan to it. So it's just not Ryan now. Now we'll get back to the variables. There's different ways you can declare a variable actually. There is var and there is let. Let's kind of a newer way. I would just get in the habit of using let to define your variables. It's usually, I guess, better. It works the same pretty much. There's a slight difference. Just work with let, I guess. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you, those are variables. You can have functions, so names, you can name a function. I'm going to say function say something. So I'm going to call a function say something, and then in curly brackets kind of below it, anything I put in here happens whenever I call the function. So I'm going to say console.log you smell. Okay, so there's my function. I've created a function. If I run it, you don't see anything. That's because I've defined it in memory, but I haven't called the function. So I've told the computer what to do whenever I tell it to say something, but I haven't actually told it to say something. So to execute that function, I got to type it. And functions have curly parentheses after them. So I can say run. So now, because of that, I actually run it. It knows what I mean. It knows to do this, and it says you smell. I could put a variable in the function, so I could say something about somebody with this name, and I'll say you smell, and then I'm going to add to that the name, and then I'm going to add to that an exclamation point. I'm going to put a space after smell so that, actually I'll put a comma space so that it's not pressed right into the word smell. So now if I try to run it, it'll say, it says undefined because I didn't put anything in here. But now if I say Bob and I run it, you smell Bob. Or if I say Alice, you smell Alice. So you can define a function and you can pass a variable. You can also say that, let's do a different sentence. Let's say person one, we'll say is in love with, I gotta put a plus here actually. So I'm gonna connect person one with is in love with, and then connect that to person two. I want this say something to take the names of person one and person two. You could call these things whatever you want. And then down here I'm going to say Alice and Bob. Those are my person one and person two. And now when I run it, let me hide this file so you can see it better. It'll say Alice is in love with Bob. So person one is in love with person two. I'm going to say something with Alice and Bob. It's going to say that, filling in what I put here in for person one and person two. So that's how you can define a function. That's pretty nice. Those are pretty useful. The next thing I want to show you is something called an array. So I'm going to say let values equals an empty array. And then I'll say console.log values. And if I say run, you'll see an empty square brackets. But I can put numbers in here. Something like that. And now there's my array. You can add things to your array. So the way you do that is values.push cat. So I'm going to put a word in there. So now there's a word cat at the end. That works. There's all sorts of array methods and things like that. So I think the main thing I want to show you with the array is cycling through them. How do you cycle through them and check each value? So I want to see if there's a 2 inside of here. Or let's put it another way. I want to figure out what these add up to. So I'm going to say let total equals 0. And then I'm going to say for let num of values. Alright, so for every number in that list, it's going to cycle through, and every cycle it's going to call num that value. So first num will be 1, then it will be 1 again, then it'll be 1, then it'll be 3, then it'll be 3, then 5, and 6. Every time it cycles, it switches the number. So I'm going to say total plus equals num. And then at the end, I want to see what the total is. So it's going to cycle through. It's going to add to the total, which starts at 0, whatever the number is. And it's going to keep adding all these until it gets through them all. And then it'll spit out the final total. So if I run it, it's 20. So 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 3 and 3 is adding 6, so 17. 3 ones is 3, so 20, yeah. That's how you can cycle through a list of values. You can use a for loop. And num is called an iterator. It iterates, which means going step by step through the list. And this is called a for each loop because it is cycling through for everything in the list, for each thing in the list. And there we go. That's how it works. So I could also say, let's say, instead of printing out the total, I could print a line for everything. And I could say print num, and I'm going to put a sentence, is a number. So every number in the list is going to say that thing is a number. So run it. 1 is a number, 1 is a number, 1 is a number, 3 is a number, 3 is a number, 5 is a number, 6 is a number. Okay, so the main idea here is that you can have a list of things. You can cycle through that list. You can check every item in the list. You can keep a running total. Let's say I want to count how many ones there are. Let's say total is 0. I'm only going to count if it's a 1. So if num is 1, total plus plus, increase total by 1. If the number is 1, increase my value by 1. I'll say 3. Let's count 3. So if it's a 3, add 1 to total. And then at the end, console.log total. So I have a total. If I match condition, if the number is 3, count it, add 1 to the total. Otherwise, just keep going. Once you're done, tell me the final total. I have 2 3s. I could add some 3s. I need a comma here. Oh, 63, whatever. Run it. Now I have 6 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So this is called a loop. We're using it to iterate over an array, a list, and that's a technique that we use in pretty much every program we're ever going to write. List, iterators, loops. Those are the main basic building blocks of pretty much every program. So I hope that made some sense to you and you followed that. We're going to be using this to create our first guided project, which will be in the next one.